Cary Goldberg, originally from Montclair out in Jersey, East Coaster. Now I believe is living in New York. You've been on the podcast before, man, but we were just talking before we started up. I think it was back in January, so it's been like 9 months, bro.
Yeah, January 25th was when we did it, because that's when I got the Skype invite from you. So
yeah,
it's been a while ago.
It's been a while ago, dude. And so just recently, I think a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, you had a show, right, with some jazz crew and.
Yeah. We did the premiere of my jazz record live for the first time, which was cool. It was a really, really great night, and yeah, hopefully we'll do that again come January and June.
I mean, when did you put out the album, your spoken word album?
I put out the album, I think, a couple days. I put the record out January 23rd.
The whole process of putting that album together, I remember because we talked about it back in January.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really tough because you had live performances and live recordings as you were doing this album. So it was tough to get all these cats in one place, especially as they're playing other gigs and other shows. And I think you talked about it, man. Like, if you're in the jazz scene, you take any job and any gig you can fucking get.
Well, it depends on the musician, but a lot of guys, because I didn't pay my guys who played on the record. I had a liquor connect and got some cheap liquor and ordered a couple Domino's pizzas, and
you brought them in.
We did like three or four sessions. And that was the whole thing. Is like everyone knew I didn't have the money to make a record, and that's why the dude who made the record with me, Taylor Roig, is so incredible, because he made it possible for me to make it without having to worry about money. And
what was it like though? Like, I mean, you recorded it live, but then just recently you actually went and performed it live in front of a live audience. How did that kind of compare with the whole record making process? Was it more fun? Was it more stressful? What's it like?
It's always stressful, because like we had 4 cancellations of band members within 72 hours of the show. So you're constantly having to mix and match people, call people, message people. My girlfriend was more worried than I was.
You're just like, fuck it. If I go up and bomb, fuck it.
No, I was like, whatever. I was like, whatever happens. I'm gonna be all right. It's gonna be fine. And I'm a professional guy, so I was and I trusted my musicians, but and we didn't rehearse either. So it was very, and the way we did it, a lot of the stuff on the record we only played one time, and we never charted it because I never thought that I'd be able to do it live. So the way I did it this time was I just gave the band some standards to play, and I was just like, look, play it this way, or like I gave them minor direction, or I gave them a standard, and I just said, look, I'll fit in where I get it. Excuse me. And it worked just fine. Doing that kind of stuff is always tough, because you're dealing with multiple people and personalities and egos and schedules and all that. But
what's the scene like? Are there a lot of the jazz cats into drugs? Do you ever see that come up? Or are a lot of them alcoholics? I mean, what's the culture there?
I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
We want first and last names and social security numbers.
There's definitely an element of that. Like, you definitely see some of that, but there's a reason why you hear like the jazz stereotype, because the jazz stereotype exists. But I will say, when I was making the record, it destroyed me, because we would be rehearsing and not rehearsing, we'd be recording in the middle of the night. I would have a session schedule for 10 p.m. and nobody would show up until 2:30. Oh. And then they would all show up together at 2:30 a.m. and then I get out of the studio at 6 a.m. And then process that and process what was going on, what happened, how I felt, how the musicians felt. And, when I was making the record, I was drinking every day, and it was just I was not a great guy for a little while.
But that's because tough. It's got to be stressful, because you're counting on everyone to show up, first of all, and if they don't show up, they show up late. You're trying to meet at 10 o'clock, they show up at 2:30. It sounds like some of these guys kind of know each other. Is it a tight-knit community?
It's very much a family-oriented community, and there are its drawbacks and its clickiness, and the fact that I'm not a musician, I'll never reach a certain echelon of respect that some other people get, but I'm very lucky to be a part of it and to have it in my life and to have the connections that I have. And
did you know the whole process was going to be as hard on you as it was?
No, I had no idea how anything was really sounding until I got the roughs back 2 or 3 days later. And so it was like, I think the first session I was a mess, physically and emotionally. And then as it started to take shape, I started to really trust myself more. But making anything takes a lot out of you. I mean, I don't think I've made a record, even a live record of anything, that hasn't taken a lot out of me. And I'm not proud of the fact that I destroy myself when I make things. But I mean, what do you
mean by that? So a lot of people might not know, unless they heard that podcast back in January, that you really started off in this business doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So would you say that started then?
No, I think because I was so young, there was no artistic process in those days. It was just think about the world in a very cynical way and try to make as many jokes as you can. Try to write as many jokes as you can. But when you're thinking of the world as in like, when is my next joke gonna come? It fucks you up like big time. And that's why like, I think as a writer now, I could still be like funny, and I can have an element of laughter and comedy, but I can also, do and speak truth, and I don't have to kowtow to anyone, really. I mean, it's not, I wish it was like 10, 15 years ago when you could say whatever you wanted without anybody taking offense one way or the other.
Well, do you ever listen to the Joe Rogan podcast or the Joey Diaz? Do you ever hear these comics, the guys who perform now and are big stars? Do you ever listen to those guys and think about, maybe that's something that you would like to do? Or
No, because if I stayed a comic, either I would have blown up and gotten really heavy into drugs, or I would have killed myself.
Well, we just had someone pass away. Who was it?
Ralphie May.
Ralphie May. He passed away. What was the cause?
I don't know, but I think it was a heart attack. The dude was like 400-something pounds,
Well,
when you're that big,
I
it's
mean,
like
I remember hearing stories about guys like Sam Kinison, obviously one of your heroes, Mitch Hedberg.
right.
A lot of these guys, I don't know if it's the business taking a toll on their lives and drugs and alcohol is the outlet to balance things out, or if they had not pursued comedy to begin with, if they would have gone down that path. What's your kind of take on that?
Well, in order to be an artist of any genre, you have to have something missing in your life, right? You have to want to perform for the adulation of others. You want to get that, you want to get whatever you didn't get or haven't got, or you want to share your gift, right? So there's an element of narcissism in anything that an artist does, right? So then
That's a good point.
you take that and you multiply it by a bunch when people get famous, and there's still kind of those screwed up people, you know what I mean? But then there's an element of everybody wants you, and what do they want you for? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, on that topic, for instance, when I watch Comedy Central specials or the famous HBO specials of the likes of like Carlos Mencia, Dice Clay, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy, I mean, just go down the line. When I watch those specials, they're always on point. They always deliver great comedy, great punchlines. But whenever there's a heckler in the room, man, they're swift to go into action and take them down. And so having the confidence to stand up to that kind of interference in your set is got to be tough to do. And when I think about the narcissism you're talking about, does that help? Does that help to have that personality?
I think you have to be a little offbeat to be a comic anyway, right? And so you're, and I'm saying there are a bunch of, sorry. There are a bunch of people that aren't offbeat that are trying to do comedy, like they're frat boys, whatever.
Yeah.
They're frat boys. They're trying to do what they're going to do as a hobby thing. But if you really, I always say like an artist isn't an artist because they want to. An artist is an artist because they need to. And so if you choose to go
deep. That's deep, Cary.
So a little bit
like
too deep for red wine. Right?
I like it. Dude.
So if you choose the comedic route, I think you have to be a little offbeat to be looking at the world that way anyway, and it fucks you up. Like I was a very angry kid when I was doing comedy, and when I did that thing, the funniest kid in DC thing, one of the girls was on the show was Yvonne Orji from Insecure.
Yeah.
Now she's on Insecure, but at the time she was in college, and she did the funniest student in DC thing with me. So but that's anything, jazz, comedy, it's all the same stuff. Any art you look at, classical, country, jazz, comedy, acting, whatever it is, it's all the same conceptually. We all want to affect people in the way we want to affect people. We all want to get the laugh. We all want to get the adulation. We all want to sell the record. And so, I never understood why Kurt Cobain killed himself. And then I grew up and I have had friends in the business kill themselves and not be happy even with a level of fame. And so I get it.
There was a buddy of yours who passed away, I think, around Christmas time. I think we talked about this last time, but it was around Christmas time, right? And wasn't he in the business?
Yeah. My friend Vic. Well, that's really why I got into spoken word in the first place. He died in 2009, Christmas time, and I saw him Halloween 2009 was the last time I saw him. And, but he had a lot of demons that he was dealing with. But I think any artist in anything has stuff they're working out. So like, I don't think there's anything necessarily different about a comic than it is a punk musician, than it is a jazz musician, than it is. And I know guys, like, I know jazz dudes that would rather be comedians, and wow. I know comedians that so it's like, but they'll never tell you that, you know what I mean? But I know a lot of jazz guys that would rather play rock music, and I know a lot of rock guys that would rather play jazz. It's like everybody wants to be everybody else.
It's like the grass is always greener, man. Right?
Right.
But one thing I'm curious about is, when you think about being on stage, one of the things that I always seem to hear about, whether it's Michael Jackson, whether it's Prince, you name it, they always talk about that feeling, that adrenaline of being on stage. And even if they're uncomfortable everywhere else in their lives, they always feel best and most comfortable when they're up on stage. Yeah. And is it a rush? What is it about that stage that just centers them?
I know for myself, I feel much more in control on stage than I do off. Like I have much more confidence when I'm in front of people than I do when I'm in my apartment watching the NLCS. You know what I mean?
But I think most people would I don't want to say cower away from that, but I think most people would be intimidated by standing up in front of hundreds of people.
But that comes with a lot of time, Like yesterday, I played a middle school show in front of 500, 600 middle school kids in a middle school gym, and these kids were going fucking ape shit. They were going nuts. And
that sounds scarier than adults, man.
But they were so hyped that we all got pumped, because it's like, a couple of the guys I was playing with, they had like Snapchats going, and the kids were going nuts. And then the funny shit was we were like, yeah, like, thanks for coming, man. So then the principal takes the mic and he says, "You students weren't respectful of the artists. You were yelling and screaming." And we were all like, fuck. And like, we really wanted, like, we liked that enthusiasm. I felt really bad for the kids, but like, I was so pumped. And when I walk into a crowd of people that are there to see me, or even if they don't know that they're there to see me, they're gonna leave wanting to see me or happy that they saw me.
There's something about that energy, right? When you're at that age, whether you're middle school or high school, there's something about that age, something that maybe it's your outlook on life. I don't know what it is, dude. The world's still ahead of you. You just kind of feel like nobody can kind of take you down. You're young, bro. I don't know.
Nah,
it's a different energy.
I never felt that way. I wanted to grow up. I really wanted to grow up. And now I'm old. And I'd give my other leg to be young again. I said that yesterday. I said, I'll give my left leg to be in 6th grade again. And I told them, I said, they're not, your teachers and parents aren't going to tell you, but nothing really matters now.
Cary,
like, when did it really start to matter for you?
Let me ask
10th grade?
Actually, man, see, my high school years were interesting, dude, because we've talked about this a little bit for sure. I moved back from Spain in '99, so that was like 7th grade for me. Okay. I was moving to a new school, new town, back to a new country. And it was just, I had to make friendships all over again and get used to the whole culture again. So from 7th through 12th, to be honest with you, man, was just kind of, it was rough, bro. The home life, the social life, it was just all really rough. I think I carried a type of, I don't know if you could call it shyness. I was so intent on just getting the hell out of Oregon at that time, going to DC for college, and just moving on with my life that I think, looking back, I could have done so much more. And dude, granted, we're like what? In high school, we're like what? 15, 16, 17, 18. Looking back, I could have done a lot more with my life. And I'm not just talking about like grade wise, dude. I'm just, I don't know. I just never really felt whole and complete during high school. It's tough to explain, but I certainly broke out of that shell. I think once I got to American U in DC, as I think a lot of people do, is, when they're a freshman, dude, a lot of people don't even know what they want to major in when they start college. And, for me, I knew I wanted to do business, but I didn't know if I wanted to do accounting, finance, whatever. So there was a lot to kind of be molded there. But anyways, that's a topic for another day, right? But for you, man, again, if you're listening to this podcast right now, and we're talking about high school, and we're talking about tough upbringings and just getting through life, dude, Cary, maybe you should spend a couple minutes on just kind of reflecting on the shit that you had to go through. The shit, you know what I mean? Because dude, I'm not. Yeah, I know you don't like to dwell on it. I know you don't like to dwell on it, dude. But it's important because I don't think what you were born with is quote unquote normal, and I don't think it's typical of your average American life.
Of course not, but it is. We good with this, Mike West?
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
So yeah, I mean, it's all relative. I was born with cerebral palsy, and my foot was amputated when I was 3. And so growing up in the world, in a normal world as a disabled person, presents its own challenges, socially for sure, dating world for sure, all that. But I mean, when I look back, I say nothing really mattered until I was 16.
Why do you say that?
Because like your grades matter for college, and then after that, once you're in college, your life begins. And it's funny, like, you learn for 18 years, you learn how to learn, right? And then from 18 to 22, you're paying for information. You're paying to learn how to think and learn how to formulate information. And, I don't want to get into everything that happened.
Dude, hey, man, you're the guest today, bro. This is all about you, man.
Down into DC way, but it was...
tried to burn it down, whatever, dude. It's cool.
No, dude.
I'm just fucking with you, dude. I'm just...
Don't even...
No.
Did you... Do you know what happened there? Is that an inference?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a nugget of truth, baby. There's a nugget of... No, but...
small
before
nugget.
we get to it, I think it's fair to say, though, dude, is that it's pretty remarkable that you were admitted to a private university, one where less than 50% of the people who apply to it, right? We're talking about American U in DC. Less than 50% of people who apply are admitted. And you must have had the grades, you must have had the extracurriculars, you must have had the essays, you must have had the motivation, because or else those fuckers on the board would not have let you in. And it's impressive that you made that transition from high school.
I just don't. I don't even want to get into it because I had the grades for sure, but there's also a family connection. I'd rather not even divulge and delve into that. But
with what you had to go through, it's still impressive that, you make the decision one day, you know what, I'm going to leave Jersey and go to DC. I'm not saying that because of your, what you were born with and your circumstances that you couldn't do it. I just think there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of obstacles going on.
And in retrospect, there was a lot going on, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have made a lot of different decisions. But man, college, I learned a lot more from being kicked out of college on the verge of homelessness than I ever did in college. And that is I guess, a testament to what I've been through, and a testament to what life can be, the highs and lows that life can bring. But, if I could do anything differently, I probably would have enjoyed it more, because life has been a really big roller coaster since then for me. And, perspective is not something you get at 18.
Cary, I remember first meeting you, man. And for what it's worth, dude, we were both 18, 19 years old. We're living in the dormitory in DC. I remember you late at night, when most people were asleep in bed, hobbling down the hallway to go to use the restroom. Late at night, man, or in the early morning hours, just, basically on one foot, walking 100 yards to use the restroom. I think just from a perspective standpoint, for what it's worth, man, I mean, wow, dude. I think there's always, I don't know if it's U.S. centric, if it's something very specific to the U.S. where we just always seem to think that we have it the worst, or we always tend to think of our problems and what inhibits us or what prevents us from doing what we want to do, or what kind of obstacles we have that we can't seem to break through. Whatever it is, man, for what it's worth, dude, there were times I thought to myself, dude, I don't know how this fucking guy wakes up and just does this every day.
But it's all relative. That's what I'm saying. It's all relative. You've had your own stuff. I've had my stuff. My stuff is maybe more obvious. Stuff you can see. Stuff you can hear. Stuff you can notice. But everybody has their own stuff.
Right, and but Cary, at some point, and dude, I'm not trying to say that. I don't know. I guess. Did you ever think about your own circumstances in your life and think, why is this normal? Is this normal?
Or am I normal? No, I knew I wasn't normal from the moment I was born. I knew from the moment that I could remember, I knew I was different. And
is that because someone told you, or you just felt that way?
No, I just knew. I mean, look at me and look at everybody else, and it's a different. We look different, and that was pretty clear. And so for me, but I'm saying, I can't imagine what these people in Vegas are going through. You're at a country music festival, and you're having a good time, had a few drinks, and wake up the next day with your right leg blown off. And that, as an amputee my whole life, I kind of envy the years that they had without any problem, but I also recognize the trauma that must be for those people.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, though. Have you ever sat back and thought about, what if I did have perfectly working legs? What if I was able to play football or play soccer or play basketball?
Oh yeah.
Have you thought about what your life would have been like?
All the time. I would have been the shortstop for the New York Mets.
Yeah,
all the time.
Well, Dodgers,
Absolutely,
whatever, but it's cool.
No, the Mets. But yeah, I mean, like, I had athletic goals. I had, even as a kid, I had athletic aspirations, and knowing that it was clear that I wouldn't be able to achieve them, I stopped with those. But I'm a big time sports guy. I wouldn't have played football, but I would have definitely played baseball, 100%. But like, you have the why me moments. You have the why me days. But what it is for me now is more about, why is it so hard for a guy like me to navigate within society as a grown man?
Well, one of the things that's really pissed me off, dude, and over the years, you've told me a little bit about this. When you go for jobs, when you interview for jobs, theoretically, on paper, there isn't supposed to be any sort of discrimination. There isn't supposed to be any sort of, hey, you have a disability, you're handicapped, we can't offer you the job. But let's talk about reality, man. A couple of times, at least a couple of times, you've applied for these jobs and gone into interview. They've taken looks at you and sent you walking, and it's fucked up, man. And that shit, unfortunately, still exists.
Well, of course, and it exists for any minority. It exists for handicapped people. It exists for black people. It exists for Asian people. It exists for Indian people. It exists for any minority, gay, straight, or not straight, gay, LGBT. I don't think it exists for straight. I almost
lost my wine, man.
Unless you're going for a very niche market. But yeah, no matter your orientation, no matter your race, if you're a minority, it occurs. And my thing is, I don't think that people recognize the amount of ableism that is prevalent in America.
What do you mean by that?
It's prejudice against disabled people. They call it ableism. That's a word, but
gotcha.
There is a level of prejudice, and it's not. Sometimes it's veiled as like, do you need any help? God bless you, type of shit. But then sometimes it's more overt, where I'll go out for a job and the guy will take one look at me and the interview will go very quickly, and it is what it is. And it's very. If I knew then in college what I know now, I would have made a lot of different decisions in terms of my major, in terms of, I probably would have, I certainly wouldn't have gotten into the communications field. I would have done something more practical, because it's very hard to get employment anyway within dying industries, the dying media industry.
Well, yeah, and at the same time, I think with your passion for sports, I think, Cary, you would have been a terrific broadcaster, to be honest. I don't see why communications wouldn't have been a good fit for you. I don't know what other careers you could have gone for.
Something more practical, and the thing is, like when I was a kid, I used to announce the games that I'd play, like the video games. I would put it on mute and announce the games, and like that's what I wanted to do for a while. But like now, I'm still looking for full-time employment. It's very, and I don't want to be into this culture of victimization. Like, I've made mistakes in my life.
Shit, I've made mistakes, man.
Right, we've all made mistakes, but there's like this concept of like, because I am who I am, dealing with the issues that I deal with, to say that I don't start from a disadvantage in the eyes of corporate America or in the eyes of any major conglomerate is bullshit. They don't want me around unless they get a tax break. And even then, they'd rather not have me. They'd rather hire a guy who's 400 pounds with diabetes, with type 2 diabetes.
Yep.
So they can get the tax break that way. And, it's all good. I mean,
there's a little financial gain there. Yeah.
But that's life. You know what I mean? That's life. And
but at the, I think one of the things I picked up on that you said just a few minutes ago was maybe it's easier for people to think about the opportunities you're not given versus the stuff that seems condescending. Maybe when somebody's a little bit too helpful or presumes that you need a little bit more assistance that you might actually need. Is that ableism? Is that what you said? Ableism?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say that's a version of it, but I think it's more. I think it's like every time I go somewhere, and there's a set of stairs, nobody thinks I can do stairs. They're like, sir, elevator over there. Use the staff bathroom, whatever. And they don't realize like fuckers. I live on a 4th-floor walk-up. Like I don't want to live on a 4th-floor walk-up, but I do. And like I can do stairs.
You right now live on a 4th-floor walk-up?
Yeah.
No elevator.
No elevator. No elevator in this building.
And so they tell you that, but yeah.
But they don't know me from Adam, so they just know me by looking at me, and they assume certain things about my abilities or lack thereof, and it's frustrating, especially because like, I just want to go to the bathroom, man. Like leave me alone, leave me be. But people try to help, and a lot of people are like super like nice, like they're just trying to be nice. But then like certain people are just like really, really insensitive, and like and then there's like, I'm just thinking there's a thing about events, like any event you go to, any ticketed event, they have handicap sections.
Yeah.
And because events they can't sell anything out, they don't actually make sure that the people there are handicapped, and you can't legally ask somebody what their disability is. And so you have normal people buying handicapped seats, making it more difficult for me when I get to an event.
That's fucked up.
So
that's fucked up.
So let me tell you. So I go to a certain music hall in New York City. Certain
music hall.
Certain music hall, right? And this music hall, Tony Bennett played there. Tony Bennett played there last night, by the way.
Dude, we saw him back in 07, dude. He was G.
I really should have gone. I left
my heart in San Francisco. Francisco. I've been drinking.
I should have gone to that instead of the show that I went to.
Oh.
But
no, he was great, dude. I'm glad we went and saw him, dude.
But yeah.
Everybody was on breathalyzers, but it's cool. Go ahead with your story, man.
Yeah. They were oxygen tanks. You mean oxygen tanks? Yeah, we were the youngest guys in the room. But anyway, so I go to this music hall, and they're the worst place for handicap seating in all of New York City and the country, anywhere I've ever been. So when I go to a show, I never buy the ticket in advance. I always buy either StubHub or through an app or through a special service or whatever. Yeah. So I never have time to like call ahead. It's never an issue. So I went there the other day, last minute, and I go, and they said, "Oh, we're sold out." Meanwhile, there were over 300 tickets still available on StubHub at showtime.
Oh,
So it wasn't sold out.
right.
And they said, "We're sold out. All our handicap seats are sold out." So, and they were like, "Man, like, there's nothing we can do. You have to call our handicap services department." So their handicap services department, I looked this up because I was going to go nuts on them. Their handicap services department is only open until 4 p.m. or 5 p.m.
Their handicap services department. Okay. All right.
Or whatever they call it, disability services. It's only open until 5 p.m. So the shows are at 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So there's nobody available unless you call ahead.
Oh.
So, and I didn't know that. So I've been there twice. And the last time I was there, it wasn't a problem because I got an orchestra seat, just because it was the cheapest one. But this time it was through an app that I got the ticket from, and so I didn't know anything. So they ended up sitting me, like making me go upstairs and sitting me at like the very top, like the last row of the arena, which I didn't care. As long as I'm in the room, I'm in the room.
Right.
But like, don't make a whole thing with me about, "Oh, we can't help you and you should call ahead," and this, that, and the other thing, when there are hundreds of seats available. So a dude comes up. They must have known that I was really upset, because the dude came up to me from the tour, like with the artist, and he said, "We got a seat downstairs for you if you're here by yourself. We got a nice seat, like front row." And I didn't realize, I was like, I'm an amputee, I'm already here. I didn't realize what he was saying, because I thought he meant front row of the section. He meant front row of the concert.
No way.
Yeah, but I was like, fuck it, I'm already here. And so I lost my chance at that. By the way, I don't know if this is gonna get anywhere, but dude, Sturgill Simpson, I'm not even into country music, but I saw this dude. I had a comp ticket. I saw this dude play. That dude fucking killed it, destroyed it. He's amazing.
What was the artist's name? What was his name?
Sturgill Simpson. He's a country. He's a country singer. Does like country, folk, blues, but he's really just a blues guy that like has to sing country because blues guys don't make money. But yeah, he's fucking great, and props to his tour manager because they tried to hook it up. I didn't know what, but like it's stuff like that where like it's very simple things, and like granted, like there is a protocol for that, I guess, but the protocol affects my life in one of two ways. I have to call up, so I have to take time before I get there to call up and to make necessary arrangements. Assuming everything works out, that's probably like a 45-minute thing in certain things. But then a lot of the time, you can't buy a cheaper seat because the handicap seats are in a more expensive section, so you have to spend more money in order to do it.
Gotcha. So it's not like they have a handicap seating in every section. Cheap, middle, expensive.
Well, I will say the music hall does. The music hall, oddly enough, I sit in the back row of the arena and I look on the side and it says there's a little handicap guy. And I'm just like, how does somebody handicapped get all the way up here without trouble? It's crazy. But
little blue handicap guy.
Little blue handicap guy. But it's just like, silliness. And like, it's really silly because like when I go to a baseball game, for example,
Yeah. You're a Mets fan, by the way. I'll forgive you for this podcast. It's cool.
I go to a lot of baseball games. I go to baseball games, all different teams, all different cities. And I'll be sitting in an empty section. Empty. And I'll say, man, can I just go to the handicap seat? There'll be 2 open handicap seats. Nah, you got to go to guest services.
Oh.
So like I got to run over to the guest services thing and then run back. And it's like then they get pissed off at me that I'm not buying from them and I'm buying from a third party, StubHub or whatever, which is clearly a partner of Major League Baseball. So it becomes a whole thing, and it's not easy. And I mean this to say that it is a normal world. I'm living in a normal world. I'm a handicapped person. The processes that are put in place to help me are actually a hindrance, and any opportunity or any way of leveling the playing field that I would get is taken by those that aren't handicapped to begin with. So, how many people on disability don't have disabilities? There are entire police squads and that go after like insurance fraud and SSI fraud, and so like I'm not even gonna go there, but
I could see how it'd be a hindrance. I could see how it'd be a hindrance for sure.
The world is not set up for a guy like me, and I'm very much principled. So like, my girlfriend is like, we went to a Yankee game the other day. She was like, you just have to spend the extra money and get the handicap seats now because I don't want to go through this. I'm like, no, I'm not spending the extra $8 a ticket to not go through this. I'm gonna save the $8 and like, because like I should be getting a handicap seat, but it becomes this whole thing where I gotta go to this office and that office, and
process though, man. Like, dang,
it's silly. It's silly.
But Cary, you've been dealing with this your whole life, man. And honestly, maybe 20 years ago, what you're about 30? I think you're almost 30, right?
Yeah, I'm 29 now. June.
So 10, 20 years ago, it must have been much worse. If anything, it's gotten better. But still, 10, 20 years ago, it must have been much worse, dude. And you've been dealing with this your whole life.
20 years ago, I had no conception of it because I wasn't old enough to advocate for myself. So I can't really say what it was 10, 20 years ago. I can say that I wish it would just be, it wasn't such a production. You know what I mean? I wish that I wish a lot of things, but like, for me, that is so simple. Like, that's such a simple thing that can just, like, you look at me, you see my leg, you see I'm an amputee. I'm not, this is not a game. I don't wear, like, I told this to the music hall. I was like, I don't wear this leg to get good seats. You know what I mean? And then there's the concept of, I'm sitting in a handicap seat, but at a concert especially, everybody's standing.
Yeah.
In a theater where you can see everything if you sit the fuck down. So then I get my seat, right? I get my seat, and then the headlining band goes on, and everybody stands up. I can't see a goddamn thing.
What the
But,
fuck?
But that's life, man.
What do you think about that whole ordeal, man?
Fighting the battle is pretty easy. You just don't let people buy more than one gun, more than two guns. Even if you're a hunter hunting the most fucking dangerous animal on God's green earth, you don't need any more than like a couple shotguns. This dude had 42 guns, or 42 or 49. He had over 40 guns in a fucking arsenal. How is that even
Dude,
allowed?
and then they went to his car and they had what was it?
Yeah,
explosives, 1,600 rounds of bullets, whatever the fuck it was.
But what doesn't make sense to me, and I don't want to be all like conspiracy theory, but nobody has any dirt on this guy. We don't even know what this guy looks like. There's 2 photos of this guy.
What do you mean? What do you mean 2 photos?
Like, I've only seen the one photo with him, with his eyes closed.
Shut.
Yeah, and the other photo of him like 20 years ago or whatever. But I'm saying, and I'm not a picture guy, right? But if I did something, there'd be 500, 700, 1,500 pictures of me going in the media, and I don't take photos.
Right.
So it's like something is a little off.
Like the lack of a social profile, like a social footprint, seems a little off.
Right. It's like we don't look at, you can't look at guns because that, America. But look at fucking football. Look at everywhere that you're not supposed to look, you should look at. And like everyone's saying, man, like obviously if this dude was of Latin descent, the narrative would be different. If the dude was black, it'd be different. If the dude was Muslim, it would definitely be different. And I'm glad that it's come out that we don't know yet if this guy was an extreme liberal guy. Because I was concerned that would then be the narrative, that liberal left-wing people are dangerous, and Trump would just lean into that rather than leaning into the real issue. He's not going to lean into the real issue anyway.
Well, look, man, because I watch both a little bit of CNN, but also Fox News, man, and I will say, if you're a left sort of liberalish Democrat, right? For you, it was something so tragic and so horrible that your first thought or inclination is, you know what? Gun control. We need better gun control. Bump stocks, whatever it is. If you're on the right, a conservative, it's, we haven't had enough time to heal. The left is politicizing this terrible, tragic event. No. I hear you. I hear you. But just to paint the picture of what both sides sort of kind of, put out in the Twitter sphere, right? But it's, I don't know, man. Just in general, do you think we have too weak gun control? And if so, what's the best way to solve that without taking away the Second Amendment?
A background check. A background check would be huge. Maybe a limit on one's personal arsenal. Maybe a gun registry, similar to that of like maybe like gun insurance. So like auto insurance, you have to pay every month, whatever. If you have a yearly gun insurance, you have to pay for a gun license every month or every year. This dude had 49 guns. You're telling me they're all licensed, all legit. Nobody knew anything about him. Very quiet guy. Never caused a disturbance. Like, this dude is shooting guns somewhere. I don't know.
What's scary is that I think reports say that he acquired guns across different states. And not just that dude, but he had actually paid for and rented different hotels close or above certain
to look at various festivals.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking insane to think that this guy was scouting different festivals, and apparently he was thinking of a way to escape. So who knows, man? Maybe he was thinking, you know what? I shoot up people here in Vegas. I escape. I shoot up people in blank Palooza, whatever the fuck it is, and
but that's got, it's just, we live in a culture of paranoia, and I'm a pretty paranoid guy, right? But I would never. This idea of don't take my gun is fucking not like it's nonsense.
Well, let me ask you, is it nonsense here in the U.S. or anywhere?
It's nonsense anywhere because it's this idea that we live in a dangerous world, which we do, right? And I have no problem with Hunter getting a shotgun and shooting whatever the hell he wants to shoot. I'm not all about killing animals, but like, do whatever you want. It's a free country, right? Except when you're kneeling for the fucking national anthem, apparently it's not a free country anymore.
That's another topic. Yeah, that's
it's a free country. It's a free country until the leader goes on Twitter and talks shit.
Well, let me ask you. If you were an NFL football player, white or African American, or maybe there's a reason why you would have a different stance for each race, but white or black, would you kneel during the national anthem?
Probably, because I know what that stands for. Right? And what it stands for is racial injustice and racial inequality in America. Players don't have platforms off the field. This idea, protest on your own time. I saw this article that said that baseball is now more popular than football in America. Total bullshit. Because there are baseball teams that I went to a Phillies game a few weeks ago. There may have been 1,500 people in the stadium for a fucking doubleheader.
Wow.
And they said there was 21,000 people. There was 1,500 people there, maybe.
It's fucking nothing.
And the Phillies and other teams in the league have, it's like $20 a month. You can go to any game unlimited for that month. So, like, they're doing subscription services in cities. I can't get a jet ticket for under $50, and that's with a shit team. The Giants are 0-5. I can't get a ticket for Sunday for less than $100. So, and it's like
even at 0-5.
It's crazy. Or they're gonna be 0-5
or
crossing figures.
Yeah, sure they will.
But yeah. So like my thing is, in life, if how do I put this?
Let me ask you this, Cary. How the fuck do we come together, man? Because Cary, I'll be honest with you. So you and I, just based on who we went to college with,
culture?
You and I, just based on who we went to college with, we know lots of Republicans, lots of Democrats, lots of independents. How do we all find a way to get along, man?
It's got to come from the top. It's got to come from the top, and it's not coming from the top. This dude is throwing toilet paper at Puerto Ricans. It's not coming from the top. Like this idea that like we all have to unify and get better. Like the thing about 9/11, and I'm from Jersey, and I was in Jersey.
Your fucking backyard, man.
9/11, and I would drive home from school to my father's house. It was a Tuesday, and in order to get to my father's house, you had to go to Route 3, and on Route 3, you could see the smoke from the towers.
Oh.
And I packed boxes for first responders from 9/11. And I don't want to say that anything good came out of 9/11 because it changed our worlds so negatively on so many levels. But there was one inkling of positive. For about 2 or 3 years after 9/11, people started saying hello to each other. People were kinder to each other. we were in it together. The American flag was waving everywhere, at least where I was, and it wasn't. There wasn't this element of like extreme patriotism, you know.
No, I mean, it felt like real unity.
It was we were all, as a country, we were in this together. Now, because of the leadership that we have and because of the world that we have, it's become more and more splintered. You know, since we last spoke, how much bullshit has occurred politically, and how many attacks have happened, and how many weather disasters have happened, and Charlottesville, and this and that, and how many fucking crazy things. He just threatened North Korea again this morning. How many crazy things have happened since January? And I was talking then that this motherfucker was bringing everybody down. I think this world is going to splinter and splinter and splinter.
Well, is there a solution? Do you think that it's just getting worse and worse? I mean, okay, so next presidential election, right? Is that an opportunity in your eyes? I'm just saying, in your eyes, is that an opportunity to course correct, or are we just? I mean,
anything's better than what we got. You know, literally anything. Mike Pence is better than what we got, because at least then he's the conservative we know. He's playing from a playbook. He's playing from a rule book. This motherfucker's not playing from any rule book of any kind. He's playing from a fucking Pictionary instruction booklet. He's not. You know. It's like. And it's like, what do you even say? And like Bill Maher said, and I don't really love Bill Maher, but Bill Maher said this week on Real Time, he was like, he did this bit about how Donald Trump is the worst thing about New York, and that like the idea that like every state will be represented by its worst stereotype ever. And I just think that's funny, because like he is the worst thing about rich New York. And I don't even know.
New York almost synonymously with Donald Trump. I think Trump Tower.
Because there's Trump Towers everywhere. But man, oh man, I think we're lucky. And he's lucky he ain't got no names out there in Vegas.
Well, I think he has a hotel. He has a Trump Tower. Maybe it's not called. I think it's called the Trump Hotel. I don't know what it's called. He has a hotel in Vegas, but it has no theme. It's not on the Strip. It's sort of out. It's outside the Strip. But I've never stayed there. I heard it's nice, but apparently he has a property.
He did take all. The thing is, like, what I love about him from a sociological standpoint is that he is only willing to take credit for things if they work. If they don't work, it's somebody else's fault. And, you know, so he sells the Taj, you know, so like, you know what I'm saying? And he, like, I don't know. It's crazy, man.
This is good perspective, Cary, because our nation seems so divided. And look, dude, I know that you personally, myself included, but you personally, I know you know many friends who were Republicans, many friends who were Democrats, and you don't necessarily associate with just one camp or just the other. We come across a lot of interesting cats, dude.
Yeah, I'm not a... I was just talking to somebody the other day. When I was voting, I had to sit... Oh, God, Bryce Harper, 2-run shot. Out. Jeez. I've never seen a home run like that before.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
You got the game on it. Dude, you know what? You know, just for what it's worth, really quickly. Just really quickly. Baseball is awesome, dude. Baseball is awesome.
Baseball is fucking incredible, man. And don't get me wrong, I hope that baseball becomes more popular, because I want to say to somebody, hey, I have an extra ticket to the Met game. Anybody want to come with me? And I want 20 people to be like, yeah, I'll take it. Yeah. Nobody wants to go to the fucking baseball game. But like, I will sit alone at a baseball game and just think the whole night, just not say a word to anyone. But like, that's how I love to spend my time. And like, I'm sure that's the way people spent their time in the 60s, you know, because there were day-night doubleheaders all the time.
Right.
Like,
Right.
You know, but it was also more of the thing to do. It was more of a social activity. But people don't have respect for baseball the way they used to. And there are a lot of negative elements of baseball. I think there's not enough diversity in baseball. I think the RBI program is great. It's to try to get black youth in America more involved in baseball. But
I mean, so let's say you had an extra ticket to a baseball game, right?
Right.
You look at your phone and you think about who you might want to text or call to invite to that game. Right. We just talked for like a solid 15, 20 minutes about politics. What comes into your head about, you know, who you want to potentially invite to this game? Do you think about, you know what, this person I'm going to spend, you know, 2-3 hours with, you know, do you think about their politics? Do you think about who they are as people? What goes through your head as you think about who you might want to invite to that game?
Unfortunately, I had to lose a lot of friends because of the election. Not necessarily like great friends, but like acquaintances, because they were pro-Trump and they're still pro-Trump. I mean, some of them, and it's just like
that seems uncommon for the spoken word, the comedy business. It seems like most of those folks are probably left-leaning, right?
Oh, they weren't artists. They were folks of law enforcement and other genres, and I have all the respect in the world for law enforcement and military folks too, but I just can't support a lot of the ideals of bigotry and hatred, you know, and so I don't think to myself, well, I'm not going to invite this guy because I don't want to hear him talk for 3 hours, because I don't hang around with those people. If I can't hear you talk for 3 hours, I don't want to be around you. So I'm not going to have your number in my phone, and I'm not going to invite you anywhere because I don't fucking like you. And there's a lot of people like that in my life that, you know, I may do a show with, or I may people I don't necessarily enjoy hanging with on a regular basis. Whatever, we will be on an open mic together. You know, you're not gonna like everybody, but I try to surround myself with people that I enjoy being with. I think that what this election has done is it has brought to life people's prejudices. We all have them, right?
I disagree there. Even I think the most, you know, I don't know, the person with the best intentions is still going to have some sort of flaw, some sort of prejudice, some sort of element to them that just isn't perfect. I agree.
Yeah, and you know, and so it's just, it has made it okay to allow the darkness to come out. And a lot of people feel some kind of way about a lot of different people, you know. You have a lot of friends of Latin descent, and I don't understand it. From what I hear, a lot of Latin people pro Trump. That doesn't ring a bell to me.
You do. Don't lie. You do. You live in a diverse area, dude. Come on. You're from New Jersey, NYC. Come on, man.
But I don't see anybody in New York City of Latin descent waving a Trump flag. But I hear from what he spouts and from the numbers that there were Latin people that voted for him. But that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I mean,
but
we know a lot of those Wall Streeters, and we know a lot of those finance guys, and
you know a lot more of those motherfuckers than I do.
Yeah, but
the market,
but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
The market loves this shit. The market loves this shit, and I'll tell you why. Because he's cutting every single regulation. He's cutting every single tariff. He's cutting everything, only to fucking make his pockets bigger because he owes money. We know he owes money. And so we just gave him keys to the fucking vault. So I think the reason why I quit the business world, quit doing that in college, was because I realized that in order to do that, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night because I'd either have to fuck over my boy, and you know that better than anybody because that happened to you. People, had opportunities for internships, whatever. People shit talking you.
Remember that? You remember that,
right?
Thank you.
So like,
thank you.
I remember all that
Thank
shit.
you.
No, I remember all that shit.
Thank you.
So like, I would never. I'm not going to kiss anybody's ass, and I'm not going to do anything that I don't believe in. And I don't like the idea of leveraging or hedging my bets against nuclear war, or like hedging my bets against like catastrophe, or like, we have a fucking dictator in office, but business is booming. Like that shouldn't be that way, but it is. Like, and that's because, in essence, capitalism can be a very corrupt system, just as corrupt as any other socialism, communism. There's corruption everywhere, but we just let in the most corrupt motherfucker in the history of the United States, arguably. Like, Trump is more corrupt than Al Capone.
Well, let me ask you. If a buddy of yours said, hey, you know what, Cary, I disagree with you. I love Trump. I'm a Trump supporter, but hey,
right.
I love you, Cary. I love you and everything you stand for, but I love Trump. Could you continue to associate with that person? What I guess I'm just trying to kind of get at, can you see beyond that sort of line of which side of the field you're playing for?
At this point, no. In November, yes.
Okay.
In November, yes. But at this point, at this date, after Charlottesville, after him getting elected, after he just rolled back birth control today, there's been mass shooting after mass shooting, and he hasn't done anything to prevent that theory. At this point, if somebody honestly says to me, I'm on the Trump train and I'm not worried and I'm not concerned and I don't see, Russia's a hoax and I don't see any, it's not logical.
Yeah.
It's not logical. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be a Republican. You can be a fiscal conservative. You can even be a moralist, a Bibleist, moralist, Christian conservative, whatever the hell you want to be. But this idea that, like, everything's on the up and up and I'm still on the train no matter what, like, you have to be a real fool. You have to be a real fool. And, like, or you have to just be a really hateful person. But this idea that I love Trump and I'm not a Nazi, and I love Trump and I'm not a racist, and I love Trump and I'm not a this or a that, and it's like, wait a second, dude. But if you love Trump and you're complicit in everything that's going on, but you're not, like like it's almost like those two things. It's not possible to be one without the other at this point.
You know, I was listening to you ever watch First Take on ESPN?
Yeah.
So First Take used to have the household name Skip Bayless. You're exactly right, dude. He used to be a household name. I think he really still is. He just changed networks. He went from ESPN to Fox. Now he's on FS1 in the mornings. But now Skip Bayless is debating daily with Shannon Sharp, while Stephen A. Smith back on ESPN is debating with Max Kellerman. I think during one of their debates, Max Kellerman was making the case that, look, we understand there's a left and right. We understand there's an undecided when it comes to politics. He made an interesting point. You know, he said, look, but there are these certain few or rare times when a certain movement or a certain belief transcends the party that you sort of belong to, whether it's the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. You know, myself, you know, I don't want to get into my, you know, obviously, you know, personal beliefs, but I, dude, Cary, you know me, man. You've known me for fucking 10 years or whatever it is, like maybe longer than 10 years. You know, I always try to do the best to present both sides, dude. And just like you, I myself know many Democrats, many Republicans, many independents who have different varying beliefs than even what we're talking about right now. And what Max Kellerman said was that there are certain times in history when a certain belief sort of transcends whichever party you see yourself belonging to. And do you see this whole Trump era as something where even if you are a Republican, even if you are a Democrat, that you should be standing up, resisting this whole era that we're kind of seeing unfold before our eyes?
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you an honest question.
Go for it.
When we were 10 years old, if you heard a president, any leader, talking about, you know, these people are bad people, like this is basically, it's like, these people are bad, like you'd be like, no, like we're supposed to love everyone, right? Like that's what we're taught as children. So like, I think it's gotten to the point where you can believe whatever you want to believe, but I think the idea of being on the Trump train and not realizing that in order to do that, you have to be complicit in everything that represents. You know, my father voted for Trump, and he's a conservative Jewish guy, and he voted for Trump, and he said to me, Cary, I only care about two things. Terrorism in Israel.
Well, Israel, you know, let's just say is, you know, I think from a Jewish perspective, you know, I myself, you know, my religious views, I guess you call it Catholic, right? Is I certainly hold in high regard the history of, you know, Israel and.
But we're not even going there. But that's what.
Well, from your perspective, would you still consider yourself Jewish? You would, right?
Oh, of course,
okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm not religious, but I mean, my morals and ethics are certainly of the Jewish persuasion.
When your dad is telling you that as a Jewish conservative father, he's voting for Trump, do you seek understanding? Do you try to convince him otherwise? What do you do?
We haven't spoken in quite a while.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. I don't think it's based on this necessarily, but that is what kind of really broke the camel's back for me. He was not the only person in my family, not the only Jew to vote for Trump, right? And there's this idea within Judaism, this never again.
Relating back to the Holocaust
comes out of the Holocaust, right? And never again meant never for anyone, not never for Jews, never for any human to ever again right? Trump has sowed the seeds, knowingly or unknowingly, sowed the seeds for it to happen again. Not only to Jews, not only to blacks, not only to people of Latin descent, not only to Asians, anybody who's not Christian, white, and carries a gun, you know, it could happen to them. And I spoke with a family member, and I said, and she didn't say anything when I said this, but I said, you know, you are allowing this. You're allowing this to happen.
Encouraging.
You're allowing this, right? You're encouraging by supporting this man. You're encouraging the rhetoric, right? You may not know Twitter. You may not, and you may trust everything that goes on Fox News. But look, Shepard Smith's a bad motherfucker. Shepard Smith,
so bad motherfucker.
Shepard Smith will tell you like it is, and he's still working for Fox. and the thing is, like this idea that like Megyn Kelly, now that she works for NBC, is like a hero for women. This woman was on Fox News talking bullshit about the left and all this nonsense for years and years and years. And then the president says she's bleeding out of somewhere, and all of a sudden she's a fucking, you know, she's a freedom fighter. It's nonsense. But look, you know.
Oh, fuck.
I never thought in my lifetime that I would see the kind of hatred on a mainstream scale that I see today.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about the anthem before, and I didn't get to finish that point. When a player is playing football, risking their life for a game,
Right.
they make a ton of money. But we live in a capitalist society, and what sets prices, Ander? The market sets prices.
Supply and demand, right?
Sets
right.
prices. So there's demand, and they're making money based on that demand. So they're not doing anything wrong. They're risking their lives to play the game. They're in front of hundreds of millions of people, making hundreds of millions of dollars for themselves, billions for their owners. Billions. You're telling me that they don't have a right to make a political statement? Any political statement of any kind.
Yeah.
We live in a country where Jesse Owens is looked at like a freedom fighter, but back in the day when he put his fist up, he was a crazy person. He was looked at like that was disrespectful.
So let me ask you this. If a Republican comes to you and says, you know what, Cary, I understand that the injustices, let's just say, right, the injustices against black people in this country, or any minority for that matter, is intolerable. It needs to change now. And then they tell you, but, B-U-T, but, the national anthem is not the appropriate place to make that protest, to send that message. What do you say to that?
So when I ask, when is it? When is it appropriate?
Fair question.
And there's these comedic articles that going around, satire, you know, something to the effect of, when is it appropriate to protest if you're black? I understand why the anthem was chosen, because the country is broken. The country's been broken for a really long time. And those stars and stripes don't mean what they used to mean. For me and for a lot of other people. And the advent of social media has changed this world in a positive way. But when you can see people dying on Facebook, not like, what people had for dinner. You're watching people fucking die.
In real time. Yeah.
In real time. At the hands of, it's not a Michael Bay film. You're watching people die. Real people. Something's got to change, man.
I mean, but what do we do, Cary? What do we do as a country? What do we do to go forward and sort of bring everyone together? Is there a solution? Is there an answer?
It's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better.
So this is like tip of the iceberg bad.
Oh, it could get a lot worse because, these people are awake now. You've awakened them. You've awakened the negativity, the hate.
Let me ask you, on election night in November of 2016, just 2 months before we actually launched the podcast, 2 months before you and I spoke for the first time, what was your reaction to the election results? And because let's just be honest, in general, we have the electoral vote, the electoral college, the popular vote. But in general, I think it's fair to say that Donald Trump had at least 50% of the country, again, semantics aside, at least 50% of the country or greater, semantics aside, generally, right? So what does that tell you in terms of what people think either privately or publicly? And were you surprised by that result?
Honestly, of course I was surprised. I think everyone was surprised.
Did you know that night? Did you know that night going to bed you were just like, you know what, this is a different era.
Oh, I didn't go to bed until he won.
Oh, so you waited?
But yeah, I knew he won, but I got a text message from a gambling site, from a betting site, that said, no. Not even offshore, but I got a text message. Trump 3.5 to 1, and usually Vegas and gambling sites, they're not wrong. They're in the business of making money.
Totally agree.
So one, I don't know if those numbers are legitimate. I still have questions. We'll never know. I'm not saying that Hillary won. I'm saying that we don't know what is what and, who voted where and all that stuff. We'll never know the truth about this. But I guess the day after or 2 days after, I went to the subway and there were these women outside the subway handing out flyers of a checklist you can do to get over election depression, right? And I laughed, I scoffed at the idea, right? But then something changed in me. Something's changed in me since November. Really for the worst. I never thought
it was possible.
Well, I don't think anybody did. Any logical person did. But, and you can, the reason why none of the fucking polls got it right and nothing got it right is because it's a fucking anomaly. Something happened. People aren't wrong. The mass majority of people got it wrong, and when that happens, something's fishy here. Right. Like Nate Silver predicted it, whatever, that's his job to do that shit. But I'm talking about all the networks, not because they're fake news. It's because because something happened. We don't know exactly what. We know something. We don't know exactly what. But it has. The world is a violent place. The world is a bitter place. The world is a hateful place, and you knew all of this. It was all in the underbelly of everything. But I mean,
yeah,
you know, when you have towns being taken over by neo-Nazis with tiki torches, I mean, that's some shit. Over Civil War statues. That's some shit.
Well, so that was interesting, right?
This idea of like,
you have so much history here in the U.S. of A. And obviously, I mean, when we talk about guys like Robert E. Lee, right, from the Southern Army, we talk about guys who were ultimately defeated, who, you know, who you could, I guess, maybe even easily say represented beliefs different than the ones that we hold today. Right, just putting it that way. When those statues were being torn down, did you think to yourself, you know what, this is great, this is a great day for America? Or did you think, you know what, we're going about this the wrong way? What did Cary think, I guess, when that happened?
I mean, I thought that it was the right time for something like that to happen. You understand what you know, what that period of time, the period of time of slavery and Reconstruction and all that was a very dark time in American history. And we can remember it, and we can, you know, we can look at it in history books. We shouldn't forget it, but there's Holocaust museums with paraphernalia and propaganda in it. There's American history museums with paraphernalia and propaganda in it, and those are where those statues should go, but they shouldn't go out in I don't think they should be out in public. But I'm a white male from Jersey. I don't know how it feels as a person in South Carolina or Virginia or anywhere like that. You know, to grow up as a minority, particularly an African American living in those communities. I have no idea how that feels, but certainly I understood the outcry for those statues to go. But let me be clear. I'm not like this tree hugging liberal guy. I feel like
I'm not trying to portray you in that way. At all.
And like I'm very much like I don't necessarily subscribe to this idea that you have to kowtow to everybody, right? You have to kowtow to everybody's wants and needs. But this idea that like the majority of people can't agree that the Confederates were not all that great. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. They lost the war. They lost the war for a reason. You know what I'm saying? They lost the war. They lost. That's it. It's like, and this idea like the South will rise again. The South will rise again. Really, to ignorance will rise again, and we've just become more of an ignorant culture. Like, you're of Latin descent. How would you feel if there were, like, you know, statues of Cortez everywhere and, like, you know, fucking people who killed massive amounts of folks? And
that's a timely topic, dude. I'd be pissed. You know, I don't know if you've heard about everything going on in Spain with the Catalans out in Catalonia and Barcelona.
No. I don't know about that.
Maybe even a topic for a different day, dude. But yeah, I would not be happy, dude. That's for sure.
Yeah. So like it's all relative, I guess, but like the idea that you'd have hundreds of people come out in support of these statues. It's like they're pieces of metal. You know what I mean? Or pieces of whatever stone or whatever the hell they are, you know. And like the fact that you have all these people like burning season tickets for, you know, as a matter of principle, it's just dumb. It's dumb, and it makes me angry. Like, it makes me angry that this intense neo patriotism of like, it's it went from like give me liberty or give me death to like give me America or give me death. Like, give me Dukes of Hazzard with the Confederate flag or give me death. Because if you're gonna show the Dukes of Hazzard marathons without the Confederate flag, I don't want to see them. Like, shit like that. And it's like, what's the point? Like, what are we fighting for? We're fighting for tradition, right? But we're not fighting for positive tradition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There were things that I did as a kid that I know I shouldn't have done, right? Things that I did on a regular basis because I was a kid that I wouldn't want to do again. I wouldn't have to fight for all the dumb shit that I did. Like, can we agree as a culture? Can everyone agree that all men and women are created equal, no matter what? Right? I
agree.
I know you agree.
Okay, thank you.
The idea that other people potentially cannot agree to that is disturbing.
No, that like is extremely disturbing, Cary. Yeah.
Right. And so like, but that is where it all stems from. This idea of like, Jews will not replace us being chanted, like does one of two it differentiates one from a Jew, right? And it's saying we're better than the Jews, right? So then, in theory, all men and women were not created equal in the eyes of those people, and so, and one of the first things that the Declaration of Independence says is all men were created equal, right?
Totally.
So the first fucking thing there. But like, that got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness got lost in the fucking shuffle. If a guy who's about to get his fucking brains beaten in for 60 minutes wants to take a kneel because he knows that the world is fucked up because of his skin color, is more fucked up for him than it is for me, even for me, who has his own shit to deal with, then why not let him? You know? And this idea that like, oh, it's the flag. Like, America's gonna go on with or without that guy, with or without the offensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. Meanwhile, we don't even talk about Freddie Gray anymore. You know what I mean? People die for this shit. Since Emmett Till, before Emmett Till, people die for this shit.
Let me ask you this, though.
Like,
do you think Colin Kaepernick was really touching on the issue at hand, or do you think what he's done to sort of ignite this protest or ignite this conversation has kind of evolved along the way? Do you think that he intended for this conversation, or is something different happening right now?
He is going to be remembered in the way that Kurt Flood is remembered for starting free agency, in the way that Jackie Robinson is remembered for breaking the color barrier.
That's a big statement. That's a big statement.
Because this dude sacrificed his own career, one can argue in the prime of his career, for an idea that was bigger than himself, has clearly been blackballed by the league. You're telling me Jay Cutler gives you a better chance to win than Colin Kaepernick? You're telling me Tom fucking Savage gives you a better chance to win than Colin Kaepernick? Mike Glennon? Get the fuck out of here.
Right. No. I mean, so I think Jay Cutler eventually landed with Miami Dolphins, right? And there was a lot of speculation about whether Kaepernick was a better fit for that job. But Jay
Cutler is a Trump supporter.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Jay Cutler turned down the offer at first, and they gave him more money. Jay Cutler, the guy that's like has a ridiculous interception percentage, and don't get me wrong, Jay Cutler brought me to the fantasy football finals a few years ago. So he does.
DraftKings.com.
He did 1 year. He did 1 year. Bring me to the promised land.
Sucked in baseball.
But yeah, well, that for sure. But I will
just bust your bone.
But to say that Kaepernick is not not worth at least signing as a backup.
Right.
This idea that and it's solely for his political beliefs. Like, he's not the best quarterback in the league in the same way that Tony Romo is not the best quarterback in the league, in the same way that Peyton Manning now wouldn't be the best quarterback in the league. But because of his political beliefs, the man has been blackballed. But there have been people over history of sport, and even in my generation, in my lifetime, that have had similar things happen. Muhammad Abdul-Rauf was one of them. He didn't want to stand for the anthem for religious reasons, but this is something more. This is something more, because you have a guy who was 2 or 3 years removed from the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
San Francisco, right, when he played for the 49ers.
Yeah. Out in San Francisco, liberal fucking town, most liberal state in America, Niners don't resign.
Yeah.
Nobody. And then nobody resigns the
guy. Heard at one point maybe he walked away, but I wasn't really sure what happened there.
No. They didn't offer it. They didn't offer him anything.
Okay, gotcha.
And you know what? And at the end of the day, football is going to really morph within the next 50 years because of how dangerous it is.
It's dangerous, man. The CTE shit that's coming out, the brain injuries. It's fucking scary shit.
My God,
dude.
Man.
I was listening to a podcast a couple days ago. I'm not sure if it was like the Rogan or Joey Diaz podcast. They were talking about, and this is from the perspective of like the attorneys actually involved in trying O.J. Simpson back in the mid-90s, right? If that trial had happened today, they had said, right, these attorneys had actually said that they would have definitely brought up CTE, right? The concussion-related shit from football as a potential like influence in his, behavioral tendencies. That's fucking scary shit, man.
I mean, but it's that OJ thing is something else. I gotta take a piss. Dude, I'll be right back.
I was right with you, dude. Let's take a break real quick.
Yeah, let's take a break. I'll be right back.
All right.
I mean, obviously he did the shit.
So
I've never. It's obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, if you write a book that said, "If I did it," like that shows a level of narcissism that's beyond the scope of the imagination. It's like Trump. If I had hacked the election, here's how I would have done it differently.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but we know from Casey Anthony, we know from OJ, you can get away with murder if you look a certain way, or if people are a fan of your work. Yeah. So, you know, it's a whole thing. You know, America is a very, very strange place when it comes to that. And race has something to do with it, and gender has something to do with it. And, you know, but the fact that he's out now is just like, man. And like now he's hanging out at a brothel. It's like, come on, dude! Like, stop it.
Fucking respect.
Stop
dude.
it.
Have some fucking decency.
Yeah, you still have some money left. Change your fucking name. Buy a nice house in the fucking Nevada desert. We don't know if the Nevada desert's safe anymore, but buy a nice house in Montana or somewhere. And just get out of the public eye. Don't do interviews. The next thing is he's going to do an interview. He's going to admit to the
apparently
murder.
he had a private autograph session as soon as he got out of prison.
Of course he
did. Like, of course, right?
Because they weren't sending him 200 fucking things a day to get signed when he was in there.
Cary, you know what I really didn't realize? Back as a kid in the mid-'90s when this shit was going on, I didn't realize how big of an iconic figure he really was, and really like what he meant to the American household. He was a friendly guy. I mean, he was OJ. He was your, all-American California quarterback, or not quarterback, but he was your all-American, California football guy, charismatic. He was on TV shows. He was in movies. Even after his injury, right, post NFL, he was a part of the American household as this charismatic, funny, lovable guy, and I think when that whole shit went down, it was just totally fucking AWOL to what everyone thought he was.
It would be the equivalent of The Rock.
Yeah.
Committing murder.
Comparison, dude.
That's
a good comparison.
Just an actor. Beloved athlete, host, whatever, he had advertisements and all that. It's before my time as well. I remember the verdict, though, for some reason. I guess because you remember things in your life that are pivotal. Right. Pivotal events within history, even if you don't understand what they were. And I was watching Hard Copy. Yeah. In 94, 95, whenever it was. And wow, like it still shocks me to this day that he got off. But obviously for what he did this time, he got a heavier sentence because of that. But I mean, I don't know. He's when you really have no support, like nobody comes out in support of OJ.
Right.
Like no one. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he's terrible. And
Do you think he's absolutely 100% guilty from that murder?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You think he got off? You think he got off because of the portrayal
because
of
he was famous,
race, and why do you think he got off?
It was a different time, it was a different place in history, and he was a beloved figure. He was a beloved figure in the same way that like Robert Blake got off, and like beloved figures, even if they even if they commit crimes, they are usually not convicted. I mean, think about it. Think about in our generation, in our lifetime, who I mean, all I could think of is like rappers, but like they're not beloved figures in the way that like in the way that like OJ was
a great example.
But yeah,
somebody who's athletic, somebody who's, sort of a lovable character, kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, and a household name,
Exactly.
Household name. And, if that happened today, boy, oh boy, it would be a firestorm for sure.
Well, from a race perspective, Cary, what has to happen for this country to sort of come to grips to where we are and where we need to be? What's the gap there, dude? Is there a significant gap there to be met?
Again, it comes from the top. It comes from the top. Like, you have a man who clearly, has had discriminatory practices in his business throughout the years. We've known this about him. It's not news. And he is a discriminatory person. And when you have that kind of discrimination coming from the top, it permeates through all levels of society. And when you have half the country voting for him, maybe 49.5%, as opposed to 50.5 that voted for Hillary, because she did get 3 million more votes, but it came from, in terms of like, and I love this idea too of like, and I think we talked about this the first podcast, but like this idea that like, if you take away California and New York, Trump won the popular vote. It's like if you took away the ninth inning, we won the game. Come on,
go back and tell the Cleveland Indians that from last year,
right? Right. But like, if you have hateful ideas coming from the top, and half the country that associates with themselves with that candidate, it's a very dangerous proposition. Because
you know what?
Living in New York,
I need more wine. Let me put the Spanish ham, the $27.99 per pound Spanish ham, back in the fridge. I need more wine because
that disgusting thing you showed me is $28 a pound. That disgusting speck you just showed is $28 a pound. Where the fuck are you buying food from?
Hold on, man. Right. I'm gonna put this back in the fridge, and I got some questions for you, bro. I got some questions. You can keep the folks on the podcast entertained by you can tell them about our Michael Jackson glory days back in AU.
Okay, so as I take a bite of food, anyone who knows Ander knows that he is a penchant for Michael Jackson, particularly doing the moonwalk and other Michael Jackson dance moves. Personally, I don't have a penchant for Michael Jackson. Never did. Was afraid of Michael Jackson as a child, and
back in business,
rightfully so,
dude. So we were talking about the new normal. So my question to you is, obviously things have changed, politics have changed, the social business climate's changed. Where do we go forward, man? How do we make progress as a society, dude? How do we do it?
I don't know, man.
I mean, do you
I don't know.
Like, honestly, man, like, even 20 years ago, things like the internet, communication, communicating cross country, playing video games together from continent to continent was just not as accessible as it is today. Now you can basically get on fucking line and play Mortal Kombat or Warcraft with anybody you fucking choose, whether it's from, the US, Canada, fucking Vietnam. It's
right.
The level of globalization is fucking insane. It's insane.
But what's crazy about it is we've made so many technological innovations and even societal innovations in the last 20 years, And this election, what it is a de-evolution sociologically. It's a sociological de-evolution to a time where we didn't have what we have today in terms of technology and in terms of ways of communication. And, you know, it's like, put it this way, man. When Vegas happened, right? I was just going to bed when the message came through. So it was like, oh, news alert. Somebody got shot at Mandalay Bay, active shooter. Okay. Well, my first thought, as I think any logical person would be, dude lost money, had it gone on him, went on a fucking rampage. And so, but I just went to bed, you know, because you don't, if it's not happening to you or in your city, you're not concerned. I mean, like, if I have nobody in Vegas right now, you know, I'm not concerned enough to stay awake at 3:30 in the morning. So then I wake up and this whole thing is going down, and like it's becoming so, like, something in London just happened today. Like, it's becoming so fucking prevalent, and like, I live in New York. Like, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. And, you know, the problem with certain terrorist groups is all they want to do is shed blood. They don't want to they don't want anything. They just want power and they want bloodshed. And so how do you deal with that? But I tell you what we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be fucking threatening nuclear war. We shouldn't be letting a fucking, you know, a 70-year-old child play war games with a dude that, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't understand too. Like, other people don't fuck around like we do. There's no such thing as sarcasm in other cultures. You know what I mean? You say something to Kim Jong-un, he's gonna take it like you meant it. You know? But he came at him with that dotard shit. I loved it. He came at him with the dotard. It's great. Great stuff. But I
don't know. I guess
yeah, man.
I always think about, you know, where do we go from here, is because there's just so much conflict, so much hate, so much confrontation about which party you belong to. And if you do stand up for Donald Trump, you know, does that mean you're racist? Does that mean you're against equality and against community and unity in general? And there's this divisive climate going on, Cary. And
well, again, does it mean that you're a racist? No. But if you subscribe to a candidate, you subscribe to his ideals. And so make me an argument that says, I like Donald Trump, but I'm okay. I'm not a racist, but I love Donald Trump and I love everything that he's done, and I have no qualms about anything. And, you know, there are some people, some of which I listen to on podcasts, etc., that love Trump. There's like nothing this dude can fucking get a bomb dropped on California tomorrow. Fuck California, liberal motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Well, good. Now we have the, you know, the only two coasts to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there are people like that, and that's the thing, is like, when he said I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and still get elected, he meant that shit. So? And it's the truth. It's the fucking truth. There's nothing that he could do to lose support of his base except take their fucking guns away. That's it. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's a very dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing because when will a line be drawn? And the idea, you can't impeach Trump because it'll cause a civil war. Well, you don't say to yourself, okay, we're not going to do what we have to do as a country because some people may not like it and some people may get violent. We live in a country of laws. And when somebody thinks they're above the law and breaks the fucking law, there are consequences.
Let's say you're buying a ticket to a Ben Shapiro event, right, at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if you say fuck that dude, you buy a ticket to that guy, you're entitled to your right to show up to see that guy and hear that guy. If Antifa comes up and shows up in defense of the community or defense and, you know, leftist sort of politics, is it justified or should it go both ways for both parties?
It's all rabble bullshit. I mean, Ben Shapiro is not as bad as, say, a Milo or somebody like that. Like, yeah, I will
say Milo seems a little bit more, what's the right word? Polarizing. Maybe polarizing is the right word. A little bit more polarizing than, say, maybe Ben Shapiro. But it was quite the demonstration when Milo went to speak at UC Berkeley. And the thing is, you know, you have people standing up, you know, against, you know, so-called racism and so-called this and that. And it's like, you know, we still have this First Amendment where people can go and speak their mind. And it's even if there's an idea that you don't agree with, even if there's an idea that you feel is divisive and polarizing, if you feel that's what it is, should it be allowed or should it not be allowed? And that's the interesting conversation.
Well, it's the First Amendment doesn't protect speech that could, in theory, be harmful to others or harmful to society at large. Like the concept of like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater if there's no fire. You know, when you're talking about cultural cleansing, which is one of the ideas that Milo has, when you're talking about, I mean, I watched a few Ben Shapiro things. But he's really just he's the conservative voice that one is familiar with. He's kind of douchey, and he's like, I can say whatever I want because I'm Jewish, which is why, Jewish?
Like, I didn't know that.
I think he's Jewish. I mean, his last name's Shapiro. I'm pretty sure he's Jewish. But I think that, like, he's
when you were like, dude, my last name's Goldberg, bro. I'm Jewish.
Yeah, I can't get more Jewish than that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Jewish. I'm pretty sure like he's used that in arguments. But like Milo, his whole thing is like, I'm a gay boy. I can say whatever. It's like, no, you fucking can't. Like it's just like dumb. It's dumb. I mean, yes, we have freedom of speech. Yes, we fought for freedom of speech. Do I think that Antifa is choosing the right way to go about what they go about? Absolutely not. Do I think that sometimes that needs to happen in order for change to be made? Absolutely. You know, I saw Rage Against the Machine, or not Rage Against the Machine, Prophets of Rage the other day. And man, it was a great show. It was a great show. And you listen to that music and like, you know, it makes you want to like really revolutionize shit. So like I don't know.
I know what you're saying, man. It's
like things like actions really can unify people in the world.
Let's talk about I gotta get you on this topic, Cary. Let's talk about the poker days. We're going to talk about it, bro. We're going to talk about New Jersey, New York poker days, dude. When you were fucking show me around a fucking Gambino, Bonanno, fucking secret fucking racketeering poker rooms.
Not even.
Come on, dude.
Not even.
All right, let's pretend. Let's pretend like they were, like we were in Vegas. So you were like, listen, let's hop into the car. Let's take a stroll down like 20 miles down the road. We're going to play a little poker. It looks a little sketchy, but it's cool. Everyone there I know. You know, we'll play for a few hours and we'll see how it goes. You've always been a big poker guy. Cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I heard. I kept hearing a noise.
You gotta go. Just let me know. Okay.
No.
You can just adjust your mic or whatever.
I kept hearing a noise in my room, but I think it may be coming from outside.
So I'll kind of start up again. So basically, bro, you're
okay. So I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell him what happened.
You're from the New Jersey, New York area, and I think it's instilled and baked within popular culture that the Gambinos, the Bonannos, they're fucking all up and down the East Coast. I think when we were like 20, 21 years old, you were really into poker, bro. And you might still be, I don't know, but you were really into poker at that time. And you were like, you know what, Andrew, we're going to go, all right? We're going to go to this fucking off-the-wall place, off-the-grid place, and we're going to play some fucking poker. Dude, we roll up to this fucking shady joint, dude. And there's like security cameras, dude. There's like a fucking special knock on the door. I thought it was Road Trip with fucking Scott Williams, whatever the fuck his name is. And you know, you banged on the door like 20 different times with secret codes and this and that. And they let us in. They fucking let us in. Oh my!
I don't remember it being. I don't remember it being that crazy, you know, but yeah.
I don't think I realized at that time when we were sitting in that poker place. I don't think I realized where we were because I was fucking chill as a motherfucker. But go ahead, man. Explain the situation, bro. How the fuck did you know about that place?
Well, you always get hooked up at a place like that through somebody who plays there and like can vouch for you, and like they have to look at your ID, and like now it's much easier because of social media, so they'll like check your social media profiles. But like back then, I don't even know what they needed.
Bro, I'll be honest, man. I didn't realize organized crime was so affluent back then.
No, I mean, you just knew it was organized crime, but it was never like expressively. It was never an expressive thing where like I ever felt in danger, you know. It's just like the guy I knew told me about this room that I could play in. I was when I started playing there, I was under 21, and so you know they don't check your ID. Obviously, as long as you're not a cop, it's pretty obvious that I'm not a cop. So I was able to play, and yeah, you know. But it's funny, like you didn't feel unsafe there. Like when you were there, it was chill as fuck.
At the cameras they had. I looked at the guys that fucking dealing cards, people manning security. I felt safe as fuck.
Right, but some of those rooms not so safe. But that room in particular, very, very safe. I don't play. I haven't played in quite a while, but last I played, there's a room in the city that I go to, and they keep moving it around. But very safe, like a dude's apartment, like very safe. But yeah, like that's part of. That's part of.
Do you, when you think organized crime, when you think Gambino, Bonanno, fucking Columbo, whatever, Lucchese, whatever, do you?
Well, Trump is organized crime. You know.
Okay.
It's all organized. I mean, it's all. I mean, but like the idea in America that like, is that another home run? No, foul, just foul. But yeah, the only reason things are outlawed in America is they're not taxable.
Gotcha.
When things become taxable, they become legalized. Same way marijuana, same deal. Alcohol at a period of the country, same deal. And there's so much of a worry regarding taxation that gambling becomes an issue in America, and it really shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to spend your money a certain way, as you're not hurting anybody else. You should be able to do that. And you know,
I mean, did you ever get any blowback when you'd walk into those poker rooms? Like, who the fuck is this guy? I mean, did you ever get a second look like, you know what, you shouldn't be here right now?
Yeah, of course. Well, a lot of people thought I was retarded
because you have cerebral palsy.
So then I would win pretty steadily in the beginning because people wouldn't realize, like they would. I don't know what they thought, and I think when I did play cards, I think that worked to my advantage. But pretty much from the get-go, if you anywhere you go in the world, right, a restaurant, community center, a church, whatever, if you're going on multiple occasions constantly and you're dealing with the same people, you're going to feel more comfortable. You're going to feel at home, you know. And that room was a place where I felt comfortable, but that's because I went there a lot. And you know, looking back, if I've lived a pretty crazy life in comparison to other people. I've dealt with a lot of different things, good and bad and indifferent. I've been a lot of different places, but yeah, you know, it's always something. It's always something, man. Everything has its positives and negatives, except for a neo-Nazi rally. I think that's all negative. I think we can all agree that is something that shouldn't be around, not because I'm Jewish, but because like racism and prejudice is like a bad thing. Like you can believe whatever you want to believe, but like I don't want to fucking subscribe to that shit. So I'm gonna, you know, like, do I give a fuck that Milo has a platform and can speak, and Ben Shapiro can speak, and, you know, Alex Jones can speak? I mean, they're all fucking crackpots in their own way, but like, what the fuck do I care? You know what I mean? But there are certain aspects, right, that are very, very, very concerning. Like when Alex Jones says Sandy Hook is a false flag, when, you know, some of these conservative people are saying they're all false flags, all fake shootings to take your guns away. I mean, this is insane rhetoric. And, you know, I'm sorry for it all to come back to Trump, but man, like, he supports Alex Jones. He's been on Alex Jones' show.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy talk.
But at least we have baseball to kind of heal the world, right? Unless
I don't know if baseball is the word. Well, they are losing right now. But you heard about the banner, right, in Boston?
Totally.
Yeah. Nobody knows really where that came from, but there is an element of racism that pervades within baseball, certainly with baseball fans.
I've always heard that Boston in general, and I really haven't spent much time in Boston, but maybe you can speak to it better than I can. Boston in general
I've only been to Boston once or
I've
twice.
heard it's pretty white, and that racism is much more prevalent than any other city. At least any other coastal city in the U.S. I don't know if that's true. What's your take?
I would tend to agree with that, just because of demographics, but I couldn't really speak to it. I know that, I mean, it's just like, what's the point,
Yeah.
Like you get to a point where it's like, what are we fighting for? Like, why are you... It comes out of fear, right? Prejudice always comes out of fear. Racism, sexism, it stems from fear, right? And paranoia. And what do you do to combat that? You protect yourself. Right. And so people protect their hateful ideals and their prejudicial ideals out of fear, and they go out and buy a gun because they're afraid of the Mexicans on the other side of the border, or they're afraid of the Muslims, or they're afraid of this, or they're afraid of that. And at the end of the day, I'm a pretty paranoid guy myself. But I don't own any weaponry, and I don't you can't, like, that wasn't what the forefathers intended. Like, for you to buy a gun because fuck everybody. You're afraid of everybody you don't know.
Well, I mean, in general, I think you're a very understanding guy. And we obviously both have friends on both sides of the aisles when it comes to politics.
Dude, you've been, for 2 podcasts, we've talked for hours, and you never take a side. You're like, I don't want to offend
You want to hear my opinion?
I can't. But then you're asking me mine. So go ahead, share yours then.
I will say, there, in my opinion, I feel like, from the Democratic or liberal side, there is a sense of, you know what, here's our point of view and here's our opinion. It's right, and it's up to everybody else to catch up to where we are. That's my opinion. I feel that it's not necessarily ignorant, and it's not necessarily wrong, but I think it's incomplete. And when I go to the right side, I think of the guys on the right, especially after a tragedy like Las Vegas, and they're everyone's complaining about how the liberals are politicizing the gun control debate, or at least taking advantage of the Las Vegas massacre as a way to politicize the gun control debate. I get it. At the same time, if you are a big proponent of, this is the way that we can reduce these massacres going forward, whether it's the Virginia Tech incident, whether it's the San Bernardino incident, or even now the Las Vegas incident, and there's been others such as Orlando. I could probably go on and on and on. It's not politicizing an event to those guys. To those on the left who think that gun control is an issue and the solution to reducing these violent massacres going forward, it doesn't equate to politicizing. It equates to being the solution. And so I can see how there's that sort of tug of war going on back and forth. I do think in popular culture, now, maybe I get burned for this, maybe not. Who gives a fuck? I don't give a shit. You know what? If you disagree with me, you know what? So be it. I at least, and just like you, Cary, dude, because I honestly believe that you do. I truly believe that we seek understanding, and we don't necessarily jump off a cliff with others, at any sort of convenient path. It's we really do critically think about current events and ways that we can kind of come together as a society, and it's we don't necessarily choose the convenient path. We choose the consistent path. And I think that's super important. When it comes to my opinion, dude, I really try my best to sort of understand. And I know you're smiling right now, dude. And I know this is great. You asked me for my opinion. I get it. I don't really put myself in one.
I'm smiling because my girlfriend sent me the picture you posted of me, and not so flattering of you, but anyway.
Of me or you?
So it wasn't a flattering image of me, but that's
a Milwaukee a Milwaukee shirt. Dude, what do you mean it's not flattering?
No, a basketball shirt, bro.
Dude,
basketball
shirt.
Yeah, I gotta run.
Good, bro.
But
good chat, dude.